So let's talk about IPD readiness. How do you like to acquaint new trades that are new to IPD, with the IPD contract overall? What's the process you use to do that?
James, I don't know if you want to jump in or
I mean, a lot of discussion, a lot of
Yeah.
conversation. I guess I have some PowerPoint slides which I try to orient them to the business deal and
Yeah.
make sure that they understand that unlike pretty much any contract that they're involved in, their outcome on the job is dependent on the designers and the rest of the builders and the rest of the trades, which is totally different than
Yeah.
any other contract. Um, I also try to, especially with the trades, it's I've had many experiences where the trades tell me, if you just brought me on earlier, I would have fixed all these problems. And then I bring them on early and they're like, well, you don't have any drawings for me to look at. So there's nothing I can do. Um, and so, navigating through that conversation around, well,
Yeah.
this is what it means to be on really early. We haven't made systems decisions. We don't have drawings for you to look at.
Yeah.
What we need you to do, and it ties to target value design too, is I need you to tell me the top 10 things that always go wrong on projects that always get figured out late. I need you to bring those things early. I need you to
Yeah.
tell me the top 10 areas where, from design development to construction documents, your number gets busted so that we can have those conversations now. And
Right.
that's why you're here, because you know what those things are and I don't.
Yeah.
Um,
And do they believe that you're asking that sincerely when you ask them that? Genuinely?
well, there's definitely for me a feeling out of the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so some people jump right into that, and some people they just can't do it.
Yeah.
No matter how many meetings they're in, they still just sit back and wait for a set of drawings to come out, and then they tell you how bad the drawings are. Um,
Yeah. And
and
that makes
so you it's more important to find a person who gets, the way I describe it is, that wants to play our game.
Right.
yeah.
Like, there's
Yeah.
different rules. Do you want to play our game? And
Yeah.
some people can play and some people can't.
Yeah.
I,
I'm,
I
I'm
feel
gonna,
like there
gonna just expand that a little bit. That
Please.
differentiation between the way an IPD job, when it is running well, runs and a regular job is huge. And looking back, one of the financially most successful IPD jobs I've been on was a mix of people with a lot of experience and people with no IPD experience whatsoever. Dan,
Hmm.
you were asking about how to connect with a contract, and as we were bringing teams on, we were looking for a willingness to learn and kind of asking them oddball questions and all that stuff. That if you come into a project with legacy behaviors that are like the 50th percentile of the industry, even if they're top tier but legacy, you're going to end up with a legacy result. And
Yeah.
that is, I mean, James, I think that's one of the big struggles at UCSF still is we've got all this legacy thinking going on within designers and constructors, and it's not I'm going to do things differently. We just don't have that culture there. So I would really underline that part of what James just said. This is different, and I am willing and open to learning. And then James, something you said earlier too, I think is really important. I had a client who came from Toyota to the healthcare industry, and he got a bunch of his, I don't know, his team together from different organizations and said, as an example, like Stan, your job is to make James successful. James, your job is to make Andy successful. Andy's job is to make Dan successful. You need to
Wow.
stop thinking about yourselves. You need to make each other successful. And that, if you do that, I will give you more work than you ever want. So that idea that we're going to leave behind looking after ourselves and begin thinking about the group and other people is really hard. And
Yeah.
it's really, really hard because we all I've got a boss who is interested in how I'm taking care of HDR.
Yeah.
So it's hard. But those, I think, are the most important things. And then supporting all that with the tools and the techniques and all that stuff. But if you
Yeah.
don't have that mindset that James you just took us through, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I know like with the way some of the IPT teams that we've worked with, it's like we'll do hey, let's level set. We'll do like a 1 day, sometimes a 2 day kickoff, and like make sure that everyone's got the same expectations, and we take time coming up with what those expectations are together, a little bit of training and all that. But I was talking with my other friend John Sahara recently, great experience with a lot of smaller IPD projects.
Yeah.
And he was just like, no, I don't do anything like that. He's like, I drip feed people, and I'm constantly always kind of like inoculating them with these ideas and like little small bits of training at each of the meetings. He's like, and I find that works super great to bring people along. And I was like, wow, that's a totally different approach than we take to it. And obviously, those are perhaps just two ends of the spectrum. But like, when you look at onboarding people, new teams, some people are going to have lots of experience, as you said. Some people will have like no experience. Like, how do you make sure that there's like the level set expectations and kind of differing, like bringing people to this closer to the same level with how they think about it and the knowledge that they have?
I mean, this isn't a very good answer, but it's some of it is innate to the person,
Yeah.
so some of it is, and it's very, I was just kind of jokingly having a real heart to heart with somebody about this yesterday. You don't really know. I mean, you're looking for those signs of, hey, are you willing to learn? Are you willing? James, you talked about the top 10 reasons projects fail. If someone comes, as a great question, if someone comes to me and said, well, this person screwed this up, this other organization screwed this up, this other organization screwed up, that's a pretty good tell that it's not about changing the way they behave, but they're going to just throw other people under the bus. But fundamentally, that's it. I think a combination of what John is saying, the drip feed and then kind of big bats training is probably a good way to go. Will talks a lot about experience driving thoughts, which drive behavior, which drives action. And those big batch training sessions are so that people will have group experiences in a safe and controlled environment. So I buy into that thinking, but I get what John's saying too about the little drips. I feel like I find myself doing that too.
You mentioned Will. You're talking about Will Lichtig,
Will Lichtig. Will
who
Lichtig. Yeah.
wrote the first IFOA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
2004, I think it was.
No, you remember it had those 5 behaviors in the contract,
yeah,
which is brilliant.
Sutter behaviors, which will make James smile. But even at this hour, one of the things Will did in that 2008 project, Stan, that you and I were involved in, is he did study action teams with every upper level person, senior and core team type, on the contract. They studied the contract and went chunk by chunk by chunk over a period of, I think, 6 weeks. So that they read it, they asked questions about it, they thoroughly understood it. I don't know that all the trades would be that patient and have the resources to do that, but that's another way, at least, to get senior management and core team in.
Honestly, these trades that I mentioned in that project that was super successful, they would have done it. They had no experience with lean at all, but we picked them based on their not just willingness, but kind of curiosity, to do things differently. So it's tough.